And boom, get us being consummate professionals, bang on time. I'm Chris Grimes, but very, very well, much more importantly, this is Tace Heuston, who is my wonderful guest today. Today is a very halcyon, special day in the Good Listening To show, Stories of Distinction and Genius Clearing. Tace Heuston, enigmatically named Heuston. We have a new coaching business. And so I thought it's definitely time to bring Tace Heuston into the Good Listening To show Clearing. If you've not seen the show before, and you can come in a minute, Tace, I promise, but just to contextualize, if you've not seen the show before, where have you been? I've done about 250 of these monkeys, but this is a very, very special founder story episode. And Tace and I have a wonderful, glorious history. I've actually known you, Tace, for about, 15 years, because circa 2010, I started working for the majestic, mighty Working Voices, and they gave me the privilege of getting access to companies like not yours. I know you don't own, you're not Jamie Dimon, but you've been in J.P. Morgan Chase. And you were so often the person that was bringing Working Voices in, and you became a real champion of everything that we were doing. And in fact, I was very delighted and chuffed that I wrote my executive presence course because JP Morgan, and I think you requested it, and that became one of the most popular courses. But you had been at JP Morgan Chase for 25 plus years, as you've just said on your new swanky website. If I may just age us both, I think we both know it's probably 30 years, but everyone might, it's 25 plus years. But I just wanted to say a big, big welcome to Tace Heuston, who's just formed Training and Coaching Enterprises. You do the work on the acronym. She's turned her glorious name, which I've researched for you. I know you know what it means, but it's a female name of Latin origin. It's got a puritanical origin. And actually, I know you probably know this, Tace, but if you didn't, I'm delighted to tell you, it's be silent, be quiet. And I thought, what an absolutely perfect way for a coach and deep listening to get going on the open road. But anyway, welcome to the show. I'll stop blowing happy smoke. It's really lovely to see you, Tace.
And it is genuinely lovely to be here with you as well, Chris. I was funny enough trying to figure out how long we had known each other myself, actually. So I definitely knew it was more than 10 years, but I didn't realise it was as much as 15. So there we go.
Well, 2010 was when I had my sort of man from Del Monte conversation with Nick Smallman, who runs Working Voices. And then right up until the pandemic, actually, 2010, I was in JP Morgan in Bank Street on the day before, I think it was the Friday before the world shut down. But before then, I'd gone pretty native within JP Morgan. I was up the chrome escalators of Canary Wharf, either in Bank Street or in Blackfriars, the Victoria Embankment. But I've worked with you so often, but I'm delighted that you've now gone on the open road for yourself. So just tell us quickly the story behind the story, if you don't mind. Why after 30 years did you step down? And without any sort of, I'm not fishing for anything dark there. I'm sure it's glorious. And you're looking very sunnied, honeyed and happy. So what's the story behind the story of why you've now given birth to Tace Training and Coaching Enterprises?
So I think, I'll start with just the quick reflection back. I think I did 33 years at JP Morgan Chase. So my entire career. And I've loved it. I mean, what a phenomenal legacy and career growth over 33 years. And I think the saying is, if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's genuinely how I felt about my career at JP Morgan Chase. So my career there has really been nurturing and developing and growing talent. Everything from our juniors that come in and are starting out their careers, right through to supporting and coaching and helping our senior leaders across the organization. And for anyone, I think, who does that type of role, it's inherent in me. I love to nurture. I love to see people be successful. And the fact that I get to play a small part in helping them along their professional journey is what really motivates me. And I think now for this next chapter, I've obviously stepped away from that wonderful career, and now I get to create my own narrative and my own way forward. But I'm going to hugely continue to do that nurturing and growing of talent, but under Training and Coaching Enterprises, Tace. So there we go.
Perfect. And if I may say, a bit of a backstory, this is a bit of a second curve, and that we're all on a curve or trajectory. Your curve begins to wane. What do you do to attach to your second curve that's going to pull you towards your future? And welcome to a glorious, majestic upward incline, which I'm sure is really enjoyable already. Enjoy the new ride of being on the open road of being autonomous and independent. And I don't doubt you're bringing quite a tide of those that you've impacted behind you, so you're on the crest of a wave of surfing into your new career.
Absolutely.
One of your titles, of course, you were Global Head of Talent Development, and I know that you impacted way over 30,000 employees across asset management and private banking, and this obviously has global reach within, you know, one of the most desirable companies on the planet to work for. So I don't doubt that you've probably got some clients that still work for J.P. Morgan, and hurrah, and why not?
Absolutely. I mean, a career is about the relationships you build, right? And I think, you know, your ability to do that, connect with people, means throughout 30 odd years, I've walked away with lifelong friends and colleagues who I know we're going to stay in contact, and, you know, people that, you know, continue as clients of mine today. So yeah, very much so. It's been a very nice evolution onto that next curve.
Lovely. There's a very exciting moment at the very end, which is called Show Us Your QR Code, please. And I'm going to point people to your beautiful new racing car green, I noticed, colour scheme website. It's very holistic, very beautiful. And your strap line I really like and enjoy as well, which is called Welcome to Your Leadership Advantage. Yes.
I think there we are. QR code is up.
Yeah, Courtney, my beautiful technician, has bolted early. So if you want an early eye on the prize, there it is. That'll be a QR code for those that are watching us. And then for listening, we'll tell you what the URL is at the end. Thank you so much, Courtney. That was very reactive of you. Hurrah. So any questions before I get you on the open road of the structure of the Good Listening to show, Tace?
No, I'm excited for what's about to come, and I'm sure it's going to be full of some surprises.
So this is the show in which I invite movers, makers, shakers, mavericks, influencers, and also personal heroes into a clearing or serious happy place of my guests' choosing, as they all share with us their stories of distinction and genius. You'll see how you fit right into so many of those endeavors, Tace Heuston as well. And this is a founder story. And of course, who better than Tace at this moment, because this is literally the crest of the wave of the founding of Tace. So first of all, it's all set energetically in a clearing, Tace. Your clearing is your serious happy place. So where does Tace go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and able to think?
So I think I've actually got two clearings, but we can combine them for today. So I'm very fortunate. About 30 years ago, my parents bought a holiday home in the beautiful island of Cyprus in a little place called Coral Bay. And that is somewhere I have been going to on and off for 30 odd years. And I can honestly say, the minute the plane lands, it's an instant, like, just, I know my next few weeks are going to be de-stressing, just doing the things I love to do, spending time with my loved ones on a beautiful island. So that is probably my clearing, I think, for today. I noodled with the second one, which is the other thing I like to do, is I like to run. And I think what running gives for me is probably my creative space. I tend to come up with my best ideas and my best thinking when I'm kind of outside running. So it's kind of two. One is, the first is more of a relaxation, detox, enjoyable time, and the second is probably where I get more of my creative energy. So.
And the obvious invitation is to go for a run in
Cyprus, which I very much usually do when I'm on holiday.
And how perfect to combine the two. So can we do that then when you're running along?
Absolutely.
And whereabouts? Coral Bay sounds perfect as a destination anyway, but is there literally a bay called Coral Bay that you're running
There
across?
there is, yes.
And I so enjoyed your intake of happy breath when you went, when you've landed and it's time to decompress in Coral Bay. In all my circa 250 odd episodes, no one has ever said Coral Bay. So that's a very, very exciting clearing. I'm now going to arrive with a tree in your clearing, and this is a bit Waiting for Godot-esque, a bit deliberately existential. I'm going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How do you like these apples? And this is where you've been kind enough, Tace, to have thought about the 5 minutes to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention. And that's where we'll talk about a couple of random squirrels when we get there, and I'll explain why. And then the 1 is a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us. So over to you to interpret that. It's not a memory test, but first of all, shapeage of your canopy of your tree, 4 things that have shaped you. Tace Heuston.
I think we start with the obvious, which I think for most of us, we're shaped by our parents and our upbringing. I'm very fortunate. My parents have been together their entire time, so married for 51 years, until my dad passed away a couple of years ago. But great family upbringing. I'm the oldest of 3, so I've got a younger brother and a younger sister. And yeah, I just think I just had a really lovely upbringing. You know, dad ran his own business his entire life, so I've grown up in that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, and I've seen the hard work it takes to make your own business a true success. But I've also, mum was always there, right? There to nurture, there to guide. So that very sort of traditional family upbringing is probably a huge piece of which influences how I think and am today. And I think it's clearly closely linked with probably the second thing that
Just
I think.
before you go into number 2, may I ask what your dad did for a living? What was his job?
You may, yeah. So my dad ran his own towing fitting company. So he used to fit car alarms, towing equipment, and he's done that successfully. He started his own business at age 18, and he hadn't actually retired when he passed away. So he was still doing it at age 71. And I think, it was, more than just a job for him. It was a passion. And I think, that ability to work with people, connect with people was one of the things that made him really successful at that business. And I think it's probably one of the things that I've inherited from him, that ability to connect with people. So yeah, it's been a real
your family always banging on about the metaphor of towing the line, or not?
The downside of the type of role my dad did meant he travelled the sort of breadth of the country fitting tow bars. Because Chris and I, before we started, we talked about how punctual we were. My dad was phenomenally late for everything because he was at the mercy of the M25 and all of the road system in the UK. So it meant he was inherently late for pretty much anything and everything, which I think has rubbed off on me in the opposite way. I'm inherently early for everything. So yeah.
You were early for today. It was wonderfully reassuring. We riffed on the adage, didn't we? Which I think you articulated better than me, that just being, if you're 5 minutes early, that's 5 minutes too late.
Yes, very much so.
Now. So sorry, back to you for your second shapeage.
The second shapeage. So I grew up in a Christian faith-based family. So going to church every Sunday was a huge part of my upbringing. And I think that's really kind of influenced again and shaped me into the person that I am today. It was actually really fun. We went to like a really lively Christian based church. So my dad used to play the guitar in the band at the front. My brother used to play the drums. And it was a real sense of sort of community. So I just remember it as being a really safe but fun place and environment to be. And I think it's probably where my sort of sense of nurturing others and teaching others probably started, because I actually used to teach Sunday school back in my younger years. And that ability, and I had that sort of age group, sort of 5 to 8, I used to take and teach. And it just used to be really fun. And I was young then. I think I was in my early 20s when I was doing that. And I just used to make it a really creative and fun environment. So, we wouldn't just sit and, tell the Bible-based stories. I'd be the one dragging in some of my mum's velvet blue curtains and creating the sea, and we'll be jumping in the sea. And yeah, so you like just making it fun and, you know, an opportunity to learn in a really creative and different way. And I'm sure that sort of has definitely shaped how I show up today in terms of, and my spark and love for kind of nurturing and learning.
You could have been a drama teacher, which was my background by the sound of it, if you're turning up with your mum's curtains. I assume you didn't whip them down from the actual curtains, these are spare ones. I think, why is it so light? Oh, Tace has nicked the curtains for a Sunday school. Very good. Wonderful. So there's a Tace Heuston band in there as well with everyone playing.
Yes.
Were you a singer as well?
Absolutely not. No, you definitely don't. You won't find, well, you can listen to me at karaoke, but it won't be an enjoyable experience. So no, definitely not.
For the wrong reasons, obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we're on to shapeage number 3.
I think for me, the third one is really my career and work. I got my first Saturday job age 12. I'm not even sure you can start work that young these days.
You could have gone up the chimneys in the old days, but
so yes, I started age 12 in a flower shop. Actually, that was my Saturday job, which I was fortunate to get because my granddad was the delivery driver. So it meant my first ever sort of Saturday job. I got to work alongside my granddad every Saturday, which was really kind of quite fun. And I did that up until age 17. And then I went straight into work at age 17. So I did my GCSEs. And then I started at a company called Save and Prosper that was owned by Flemings, that merged with Chase, that eventually became J.P. Morgan. So hence my long 30-odd career, starting in financial services.
You walked in one doorway to work once upon a time, and then it morphed into the best place on the planet to work.
Yeah, it really did. You know, when you've been somewhere from age 17 for 30 odd years, it definitely shapes you. You learn so much about yourself as you go through that career. And I think the beauty of that journey has been the ability to learn new skills. You learn a lot about yourself. I've moved around and done a lot of different roles in those times as well. So that opportunity to step up and try new things. So it's definitely shaped me who I am today. And I think ultimately, you know, when you start work, you're always working for someone, right? So you learn a lot from the people that you work alongside, but you learn a lot from the people you work for. And, you know, in 33 years, I've had some phenomenal managers. I've had some pretty terrible ones too. But you genuinely learn quite a lot from both, in my experience. So
which
you
no doubt
learn.
helps with the, you know, the silky skills of being a coach, because you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Yes, I've experienced that too.
Yes, yeah, you really do.
If
But
I may say, you've given J.P. Morgan Chase then 5 life cycles almost. Have you heard that adage where every 7 years you're cellularly regenerated, which wasn't so easy to say, cellularly regenerated? Your teeth are the same, but are a new person. But you committed to almost 5 complete life cycles. So it must have been a wonderful ebb and flow of change, constancy.
Yeah, and you learn to adapt to that, and I think that's a skill you learn. You learn to embrace change, and not to fear it, because typically, in my experience throughout that time, was go into it with open eyes, go into it and see what plays out. And for me, I think through 30 odd years, embracing change has generally led to growth for me personally. And learning a lot about yourself. And, you know, it's so life is change.
Yes, and in fact, your new imperative with training and coaching enterprises is to help people navigate the complexities of their roles and deliver. And of course, you've got, you know, irreplaceable, deeply entrenched experience, as in roots of experience of 33 years. Fantastic. Shapeage number 4. I've got a bell for shapeage number 4, please. So you can now do the 4th one.
Okay, well, I think this is actually going to morph a little bit into shaping, but also inspiring, because I think it's a little bit of both. So I've been very fortunate throughout my life to do a lot of travel. And I think that's definitely definitely shaped me. So throughout my 20s, I did lots of travel. I've been all around the world, New Zealand, Australia, and lots of other wonderful, lovely destinations. And I always say to people, I always feel like everybody has one thing that they spend their money on. And for some people it's cars, other people it's gadgets. For me, it will always be travel. If I've got money to spend, I will spend it traveling. I just think making memories, having new experiences, seeing the wonders of the world, like there's so much richness that you can get from that and learn from that. And I think I've got a little story to talk about some of this as well and how it shapes you. So it's one thing traveling as just you, and we've all seen how easy that is to pack your own case, jump on that aeroplane and go. I had my daughter when I was 31, and at the time my husband's brother lives in New Zealand, and we decided that we were going to do a 5-week tour with our 12-week-old baby.
We all think it's going to be in a papoose and quiet for that time, don't we?
So I do just remember kind of my mum dropping me off at Heathrow Airport with obviously umpteen many more bags than when you were a solo traveller, and buggies and all sorts of other things. And I just remember hugging my mum goodbye, and I had that moment where I stood there, I've got this tiny 12-week-old baby strapped to me, and I did think to myself, what on earth am I doing?
As with all the other passengers.
Yeah, so but actually it turned out great, and actually 12-week-old babies are pretty transferable. You can move, you can take them anywhere. So yeah, by the time she came back at 5 months old, she'd already been to Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and the US. So
You set the bar high for the other person, the other child you have, because that means did you do the similar thing when the next child was born?
no, definitely not, because by then you've got a toddler, right? So infinitely much more harder.
Yes. Lovely. So I think we've done your shapeages, which is great. Now we're on to, and if there's any overlap, that's completely fine. Now, 3 things that inspire you, Tace Heuston.
I think, well, I think just stay on the travel theme. I think, we can just start with that one. I just think there's so much that you learn about yourself and then you experience it with your family. And I think, I've really wanted to share that with my children because it's really inspired me. And I think, that zest for life and having new experiences is like something I've really wanted to instill in my own children. And sure enough, the apple does not fall far from the tree, because my daughter is now 19 and currently in New Zealand backpacking. So, it's definitely rubbed off on her. She left in February. She's been all around Asia, and now she's in New Zealand hiking mountains and kayaking and doing all
as we
sorts.
know, it's a different world now, because presumably you're WhatsApping on the daily, whereas in our day, because we're quite old, no offense, it was very different. You just sort of go feral and disappear into the world until you came back.
Yeah, now you actually get to go a little bit with them, because she FaceTimes every sort of 3 or 4 days, and full of all the adventures that she's been doing. You get to meet some of the people on FaceTime that she's with. Sometimes she'll FaceTime me from whatever viewpoint she's on. So yeah, it's a different experience now, and it's not, and also you can track them, right? We've all got these tracking devices. Our whole family's on Live 360. Everyone knows where everybody is, so. And actually, it's quite fun to look like, where is she now?
Yes.
Particularly, she's been traveling around. So, yeah.
Lovely. Inspiration number 2, please.
So I think inspiration number 2 for me is just people. I've spent my whole career investing in people, and I think I just love it. Like, we're all so fascinating. We're all so unique. We're all so different. And I think connecting with others and supporting others is definitely what's made my job so thrilling and exciting over a long career, really. And I'm excited that I'm going to continue that journey. I think if I was to be really specific, I think women inspire me a lot, and I've been a champion of women throughout the workplace, but also from a helping women come back to their careers as well. That's been a huge piece of the legacy that I've left behind at J.P. Morgan.
And that was the re-entry program. I think you told me just before we started that was what that was called.
Yes. So the J.P. Morgan re-entry program has been a real passion of mine over quite a number of years. I think probably 10 years or so. And it's just really, it was started to really tap into that pool of talent of women that have taken time out of their careers to either nurture raising their family. But it's really, really hard if you've taken 2 years out of a job to nurture and grow your family, or even longer. It's actually incredibly hard to come back into a similar level job. There's a lot of stigma attached where, you know, your CV is not as current, and as much as that stigma is starting to change, it's still hard even today. And you know, it really does rely on managers and companies and businesses to be intentional about taking someone from that talent pool, knowing that they're going to need a little bit more support in order to ramp up. But they're absolutely worth taking because they come with all this previous, not only career experience, but life experience. And they are so keen to come back to their careers. They ramp up so quickly. So for me, it's been a real joy to kind of champion that over the last few years.
And as you said at the very beginning, your mother was very ever present in that wonderful way of nurture. And you know, the most profound sense of presence is being present for the growth of your children and the nurturing and the developing.
Yeah.
Lovely. I think we're on to inspirational number 3, please. The final one.
Yeah. I think these are my, I mean, it's my family. They're the reason. My husband, and I've got 2 children. So, but they are my reason for being. They're the reason you get up every day and you work hard and you show up. My husband's phenomenal. He took a backseat in his home career to allow me to step up in mine, and for that I will always be truly grateful. And he's been one of my biggest champions all the way through, and even now, and as we're starting this new journey, he's been fantastic. So yeah, so they're definitely my inspiration.
And a profound
I think
women's advocate you are, because you've had the career, you've had the family, and you're very, very much the right way up and trailblazing and very excited about your future, all perpetually.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so my family.
Hurrah. And now it's the 2 squirrels, borrowed from the film Up. Squirrels. It's sometimes called your shiny object syndrome. But what are the 2 monsters of distraction? What are the 2 shiny objects that that always stop you in your tracks and never fail to distract you, irrespective of anything else that might be going on for you in your life? So, Tace Heuston, what are your squirrels, please?
Yeah, I have 2, and they are completely different. So the first for me is actually nature. Some of my runs definitely take way longer because I've stopped to take photos of things. So a beautiful sunrise, you know, particularly now, if anyone's out if they're walking or running in the trails, all the bluebells have been out recently. So, and you can't stop but help admire nature. So I think it's definitely a distractor for me. And sunshine is definitely a distractor for me. And then the second one, I told my husband this was going to be what he started laughing. So my second one is actually mess. I can't stand mess anywhere. And actually, if any of my previous team in London are listening to this at any point, they'll also be chuckling, because I was the same in the office environment as well. And unfortunately, being a learning and talent team, we always had stuff, like we had boxes of notebooks and pens, and it always used to get piled up behind us. It used to drive me crazy. I love a sort of tidy environment. So yeah, mess is a real distractor. And in my own home, I'll walk through the door and one of my first things is not a headlight. It's like, why is that there?
I'm now appreciating your background is more delicately placed now. That now you've said that, it's very if we got a sort of ruler out. I'm just joking, but yes, that's great that's a squirrel. Tidiness and sunsets.
Definitely. But I have 2 teenagers, so thank goodness for doors is all I can say, because then you can shut the doors on those rooms that are definitely not tidy.
And now it's the one in the tree montage, which is the quirky or unusual fact about you, Tace Heuston, we couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us.
So I kind of touched on it a little bit with where I started. So because I started my first job in a flower shop, I actually then went on to learn to be a qualified florist.
Wow.
So that is your little interesting fact about me. So my friends always giggle because I've had this phenomenal career that I've loved. And they always used to say to me, you're the only person I know who actually loves their job, but also has a backup plan in terms of being a florist.
A cunning plan B. I love that. And have you ever practiced your craft and your art and done weddings and things? Or
I have, yes. So I've done pretty much all of my closest friends' wedding flowers.
Nice.
So yes, it's it's a skill. It's a great skill to have, and certainly been a beneficial skill to them. But it's just lovely. There are not many moments in life where you get to just take, like, if I've got a flower ordered for a wedding, like it'd arrive a few days earlier and I'd start in the morning with just like these buckets full of flowers, but then fast forward 4 hours and suddenly I'm laying out bridal bouquets and buttonholes and table array. It's so lovely to really see that creativity come to life and see a finished product and see it all end to end. And it's just my happy, like I'm just so happy doing it as well. You can't be thinking about other things. You're just in your moment of being that creative.
and your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to come up with an acronym of your flower enterprise. Because I know you've got training and coaching enterprises. While you were talking, I was thinking, this is crap, but take a chrysanthemum everywhere. It's all I could come up with. Anyway,
I think we'll have to come up with a slightly better one than that, Chris.
I think so too. But may I just congratulate you for training and coaching enterprises? It's meant to be. We've shaken your tree. Hurrah! Okay, now we stay in your clearing, which is taking the run across the Bay of Coral Bay. And now we're going to talk about alchemy and gold. When you're at purpose and in flow, Tace, what are you absolutely happiest doing in what you're here to reveal to the world?
Helping other people. It's as simple as that. Like, my job is a joy because I genuinely get so much from taking that time to help people. And you work in a big corporate career, the thing you observe, particularly when you work with really senior audiences, is it becomes quite hard to find people to be open with, to be honest with, to really talk through some of the challenges that you're dealing with. And everyone's looking at you through this lens and expecting you to be this amazing leader, and the reality is there's still a lot going on inside your head that you need support too. And I think it's been a real privilege to be able to be that support and help some of those senior leaders navigate those moments throughout their career, and that's something I intend to continue to do.
Beautifully, eloquently put. And now I'm going to award you with a cake. So we'll talk about cake momentarily. Do you like cake, first of all?
Absolutely.
Nom, 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 nom. So if I was to proffer you a cake, what would be your sort of cake of choice, please?
So for me, it would be red velvet, and all day long because of the cream cheese frosting.
Ooh, I like that. No one's ever said all day long. That's quite greedy, if I may say so. But red velvet all day long is what shall be yours. Now you get to put a cherry on the cake, and this is the final suffused with storytelling metaphor. What's a favourite inspirational quote, Tace, that's given you succor and always pull you toward your future?
For me, it and this still sits with me today, and it always will do. The only thing holding you back is you.
Love that. With the gift of hindsight, what notes, help, or advice might you proffer to a younger version of yourself?
I think it's really simple. Be brave. Do the things that frighten you the most, because they're definitely the moments when you'll grow the most. And then I think be kind. You can go authentically through life being yourself and being kind.
Just deliberately letting that sit there, bit of silence. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given by somebody else?
Okay, best piece of advice. I think probably someone once said to me, say yes to everything. And it kind of sat with me, unless it really doesn't make sense in terms of like family locations, say yes to everything. And I think, it's that sort of premise again of don't be afraid to try new things, don't be afraid of change. It's in those moments that we tend to learn a lot about ourselves and grow. So I think, say yes to
Resonates
it.
so well with my love and enjoyment and cut and thrust with my side hustle, which is comedy improvisation with this mindset of yes and yes and yes and.
Yeah,
And doors on lubricated hinges open up in life if you say yes more. Fantastic.
yeah.
And now we're going to ramp up shortly to talk about Shakespeare, all the world's a stage and all the bedded women merely players. But just before we get there, this is the pass the golden baton moment, please. So now you've experienced this from within, Tace Heuston, who would you most like, they don't like it out by Mr. Menring, to pass the golden baton along to keep the golden thread of the storytelling going?
I would like to pass my golden baton to Julianne Miles. MBE. I will add on to the end of that. We shouldn't miss that. Julianne is the founder of Career Returners. She and I have worked together for over 10 years now. She's a huge champion for helping people come back to their careers across multiple industries. She does phenomenal work in that space. I would love to have her tell her story.
Thank you for that wonderfully generous golden baton pass, Julie Ann Miles, MBE. And your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to let her know I'm coming for her. That's good. And now, inspired by Shakespeare, and this is quite an exciting actual book. It's not a first folio, but this is the actual book I bought for myself when I went to the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School ages ago, 1986 to 88. But anyway, borrowed from The 7 Ages of Man's speech, J.P.'s how, when all is said and done, this isn't the speech, but the gist of it is, when all is said and done, Tace Heuston, how would you most like to be remembered?
Yeah, wow. That's quite a big question to answer, isn't it? How would I like to be remembered? I think as someone who has been a genuine champion of others, as someone who is infinitely kind, and someone who enjoys life.
Your legacy is in the bag, I would say. You keep reminding me of one of my favorite quotes, which is, it's all about the relationship, stupid. And it sincerely, very definitely is. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the very exciting show us your QR code moment, please. So we're just going to reincorporate because Courtney bolted early. First of all, we'll go, just if you're not able to watch as you listen, just talk us through what your URL is for training and coaching enterprises, Tace.
TaceHeuston.com is where you can find out more of what I am doing now. It's essentially an extension of what I've been doing for 30 years. So it's executive coaching, team coaching, leadership development, and a series called Thrive, which is really about supporting women in the workplace, and really helping them build their confidence and skills so that they can show up.
And in how you've beautifully crafted your website, Thrive seems to be your signature program. Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. And I'm excited for what comes next. So you can find out more there. And
again, if you're just listening, Tace Heuston is quite an unusual name. So will you just, I know we've spelt the Tace because we've written on the acronym, but how the Heuston, we've got a new coaching business. How are we spelling the Heuston?
So Heuston is quite unusual. It's Heuston. And yes, the business is called Tace, so Training and Coaching Enterprises. I was given the beautiful gift of an unusual name by my parents, so it felt very apt to use that as an acronym for my new business venture going forward. So.
And you're definitely not opening a flower shop called Take a Chrysanthemum Everywhere. We're definitely
no, definitely not.
I thought is say yes more. No, I'm not doing that. I love that. Wonderful. So there's another QR code, but if you'd like to connect with Tace on LinkedIn, here comes the other QR code. Again, just scan, and your new photos for your website are fantastic. So that's connect with Tace Heuston on LinkedIn. And just a couple of announcements from me. If you'd like a conversation, having listened to this with me, to be in the show too, the website is thegoodlisteningtoshow.com. That's another QR code. Here it comes. It's the goodlisteningtoshow.com QR code. And then the other very exciting one, just to mention quickly, is a new series strand, which has been in the mountainscape of Legacy Life, of the Good Listening To Show all along. It's called Legacy Life Reflections, which is to use the storytelling structure that we've just enjoyed together, Tace and I, in order to record the story without any morbid intention of someone near, dear, or close to us for posterity, lest we forget before it's too late. And my own father, you mentioned your own dad sadly passing 2 years ago, Tace. My dad died last August, and he was my very first willing guinea pig. He knew exactly what I was doing, but about 5 years ago, I recorded my father in the halcyon days of his 80s before he slipped into a crater of declining health. And I'm so happy that I did take the time, trouble, and effort to do that. With Legacy Life Reflections, it just takes 2 hours of your life to record that special, precious life forever. So yes, Tace Heuston, this has been your moment in the sunshine of the, it's going so well that I fell over my tongue at the last hurdle. This is called Stories of Distinction and Genius. You've qualified beautifully for that. This has been your founder story. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Tace?
I think firstly, thank you, Chris. This has been a lot of fun and a great way to kind of launch the next chapter. And then I think finally, just nothing ever gets done on your own. And a little bit of support and a little bit of encouragement goes a long way. And I have had a ton of that from my network, my family, my friends, my new coaching network. So just a huge thank you to all of them for the support, the encouragement. As they say, it takes a village.
It takes a village to raise a child. Lovely. So thank you so much. I've been Chris Grimes. Most importantly, this has been Tace Heuston from taceheuston.com. That was the right URL, wasn't it? I shouldn't have got that.
It was, yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for listening. Drop the mic. Good night.